is there to provide health care. Abortion is not health care. Abortion is the killing of an unborn child.
Anger among abortion opponents tonight after a new Supreme Court decision in a West Coast case helps people fighting for reproductive rights. But abortion right activists understand more challenges are straight ahead.
Our caucus won't stop fighting until our laws reflect our democratic values.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Frank Malico. Today's U.S. Supreme Court decision allows Idaho hospitals to perform abortions in emergency situations for now. Fox's Connor Hansen reports that decision leaves some legal questions in that matter unanswered.
Today's order means that while we continue to litigate our case, women in Idaho will once again have access to the emergency care guaranteed to them under federal law.
Continuing a series of high-profile rulings, the Supreme Court sided with the Biden administration, which challenged Idaho's strict abortion law. Doctors in Idaho are now able to provide abortions in emergency situations when a woman's health is at serious risk.
Our caucus won't stop fighting until our laws reflect our democratic values and our own freedoms to make our own health care decisions without interference.
2 years ago, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, leading to a flurry of state laws limiting abortion access. It has been a key issue in the 2024 election, with Democrats accusing Republicans of wanting to go even further.
The catastrophic decision in Dobbs was just one part of the extreme MAGA Republican plan to impose a nationwide abortion ban, outlaw contraception, and limit access to IVF.
Many Republicans say it's simply about leaving it up to individual states to decide.
States are now working through this and figuring out how they want policies to be set, and that's frankly where I think it predominantly ought to lay.
That was Fox's Connor Hansen reporting. The Supreme Court's decision is only temporary, though. The issue will be sent back to lower courts in Idaho. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays clarified his stance on emergency abortions in that state today. 4 state lawmakers sent her a letter asking for an opinion on when doctors can perform abortions after 15 weeks. They were concerned a 2022 law on the issue does not define what an emergency means. AG Mays says a doctor must determine whether the patient faces, quote, serious risk of substantial and irreversible impairment of a major bodily function.
Once a treating physician forms a good faith clinical judgment that one of these circumstances is satisfied, the statute allows her to perform an immediate abortion, and she need not wait for the patient to deteriorate or inch closer to death.
This opinion comes just days before a group makes a move to get an abortion measure on Arizona's November ballot. Group wants people to vote on whether access to abortion should be enshrined in the state's constitution. They've been circulating a petition on that matter now for months. They have until July the 3rd to submit nearly 400,000 signatures needed to get the issue on the ballot. Attorney General May's written opinion is 15 pages long. You can read it in its entirety on westcoastwrap.com. Well, a wildfire burning in Central Oregon has grown to nearly 4,000 acres, but firefighters believe they are making progress slowing the fire spread. They say they were able to build containment lines on the east end of their Darlene 3 fire overnight. That fire has been burning about 30 miles south of Bend since Tuesday. Evacuation orders remain in effect for some sections of Lapine tonight. Investigators are still trying to figure out what may have started the fire. We have no word of any injuries or structures being lost. Flames are about 30% contained currently. And firefighters throughout the state are now heading to Central Oregon to help put out that fire. Governor has declared the incident a state emergency, which mobilizes resources from all around the state of Oregon. The governor says the fire is now beyond local control and additional fire crews are needed.
Crews got there at 7:30 this morning. That's about when you typically do a shift change on the fire line. And so they would have rotated out with the crews that were there so they could come in and get a break, get some sleep, and then our crews would go out.
Oregon state officials say this is the first major wildfire of the season. Right now, 1,100 structures are in harm's way. Fire insurance has become a major issue for businesses across California, in part due to the growing number of homeless encampments. State data shows the number of reported encampment fires now has doubled in 2020, since 2020. KTVU's Tom Vakar has a closer look at this growing problem.
Christine Miller's family has owned and operated Marin County Roofing for 103 years, 4 generations. The homeless camp by the property fence has caught fire 3 times this year. The last time it melted the fence line and the pipe holding the line to a large propane tank.
If it would have gone any further down before the fire department was able to put it out, it would have caused the propane tank to blow up.
Mrs. Miller was not about to file an insurance claim and paid for the repairs herself.
Because like everything else in California, everybody's losing their insurance.
The encampment is temporarily closed, awaiting a federal court judge's ruling. So the city moved the campers 200 feet, right next to Cal West Equipment Rentals.
There was a couple fires already that broke out, and luckily we were here, and it got notified right away, and fire department came and put that out. But what happens when something like that breaks out at night?
Attorney Stephen Young of the Independent Agents and Brokers of California says insurers can immediately cancel business policies for unpaid premiums or fraud.
But the other reason would be if there has been a material increase in the risk that's being insured, the dramatically different risk which was not present when the insurer decided to issue the policy.
The insurer would first have to notify the business to abate any risks it controls. But what about a fire risk that moves right in next door that the policyholders don't own or control?
That might very well be a factor that would warrant immediate action by the insurer.
One Southern California business property owner was canceled due to a homeless campfire. It found another insurer, but the premium was 4 times higher.
All of our rights are being taken away from us, and they're getting everything.
The California Fair Plan is available to businesses, but the rates are very high, and no contents or inventory are covered by it. Only the building. Tom Vakar, KTVU Fox 2 News.
Around 100 employees were evacuated from a lab in El Segundo today due to a release of unknown fumes. This was the scene just a few blocks south of LAX Airport. The lab belongs to Northrop Grumman, an American aerospace and defense technology firm. 2 people were hospitalized, 3 treated at the scene, but fire officials say there is no danger to the community. The leak may have come from work being done on the HVAC air conditioning system at that lab. The Vice President, Kamala Harris, will head back west tomorrow. She plans to attend a campaign fundraiser in Park City, Utah. She also has a stop planned in Las Vegas. Both of the visits will come the day after the campaign season's first debate between President Biden and former President Trump. She visited Arizona earlier this week. Up next, some welcome signs of wildfire recovery in Hawaii. Coming up, we're going to see how some burned out neighborhoods are making a comeback. And another mysterious monolith pops up in the west. What people are saying about this discovery in Colorado.
We take you to Seattle, where we have a bank of cloudiness, but I will share with you where thunderstorms will disturb your Friday. Your West Coast Wrap is coming up after this brief Fox timeout.
It could be at least another year before the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students stands trial. Today, a judge and attorneys discuss the trial schedule for Brian Kohlberger. Lawyers on both sides agreed to a timeline with the arraignment at least 13 months away. A motion to move the trial out of Moscow, Idaho, the town where the students were killed, that's tabled until August. Kohlberger's attorneys argue publicity in Latah County would prevent a fair trial. And authorities are now reporting that the North Las Vegas shooting that killed 5 people on Monday stemmed from a domestic dispute. Police say 48-year-old Eric Adams was visiting his girlfriend on Monday night. Authorities say they started to argue. Adams turned the gun on the woman's daughter and her girlfriend. The daughter was identified today as Kayla Harris. The names of the other 4 victims has not been released, but police say they were a neighbor who tried to help and his grandmother and mother. Police say Adams died by suicide after refusing to cooperate with police. Boeing facing new sanctions tonight. The National Transportation Safety Board says the company shared information about an ongoing federal investigation. Fox's Connor Hansen tells us the controversy comes just days after cameras were invited inside Boeing's production facility in Renton, Washington.
Nearly 6 months after a door plug blew out of a Boeing airplane mid-flight, the company gave rare access to a plant that builds the 737 MAX 9. Boeing says that plane left the plant without the necessary bolts securing the door plug. The company speculates that there was missing paperwork after the plug was put in place at the plant.
We know the plug was opened and the paperwork is not there. And so what I have done and what we have done is focus deeply on ensuring that we closed that gap.
Boeing's goal was to show the company has doubled down on safety.
I feel very confident that it will not happen again.
But the NTSB wasn't happy with the company's media event. The agency says Boeing released non-public information from its investigation and speculated about the possible cause of the blowout. This comes after Boeing's CEO was grilled by lawmakers in front of the families of victims killed in Boeing crashes overseas. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg assured a House Transportation Committee today that they are keeping a close eye on the aviation giant.
We have refocused the oversight of Boeing and will continue to hold Boeing accountable as they carry out their action plan and regain trust on safety and quality improvements.
While Boeing has apologized to the NTSB for overstepping, the agency says the company will no longer be able to access information about its investigation into the Alaska Airlines flight. In New York, Connor Hansen, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Listen to that. Some cars in central Utah taking a beating today as storms cross the state there. Images posted to social media show how quarter-size hail fell this afternoon northwest of Moab. People in the area have been warned about the potential for flash flooding tonight. Let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez, who's tracking those storms and other conditions across the west on a beautiful night in San Francisco. And by the way, happy birthday.
Oh, you found out. Thanks, Frank. Thank you very much. Hey, by the way, when I was forecasting weather in Chicago, we would have that kind of hail hitting the cars that were on the car lots. And the next day they would have hail sales on the automobiles. I think they're going to be doing that in Salt Lake City tomorrow. All that activity is pushing due east now towards Denver. You can see the shades of green. That is light to moderate precipitation. And then where you see the colors of orange and red, that is that thunderstorm activity containing areas of small hail. So what's in the offing for Denver tomorrow is all this activity. A very strong afternoon thunderstorm is in the forecast. You can see the clouds lining the skies above the Mile High City, where today's high temperature was 93 degrees. Let's head on over to Catalina Island. Wow. The temperature there today was 73 degrees. The water temperature 68 degrees. And then when you head about 9.5 miles due east towards Los Angeles, the high temperature there today was 84 degrees. By the way, take the ferry. It's only a 1-hour ride. It is glorious. All right, for the Los Angeles area tomorrow, flirting with 80 degrees after morning clouds burn off. You want heat? You got it. In Phoenix, 111 degrees. Again today. Average high is 106 degrees. And meanwhile, let's go ahead and take a look at the Phoenix forecast. It's going to remain above average all the way through the weekend. This time around, let's head from San Francisco due east towards Oakland over here. Emeryville's over there. And the bottom line is the temperatures were slightly below normal in the mid-60s. It was 64 degrees today in Seattle with mostly cloudy skies. Now, other notable numbers at this hour, 110 degrees in Las Vegas for the second day in a row. It was 114 in Palm Springs, and boy, in Palm Springs by next Wednesday, 123 degrees. Now, right now, we do have 60 degrees in San Francisco with impending cloud cover in the form of some low clouds and fog. It will be very thin. It will burn off early tomorrow. Meanwhile, we're watching the clouds invade the Seattle area. No precipitation really slated as far as accumulation is concerned. And the extended forecast as we slide towards the weekend before we head towards the 4th of July. We're looking at the skies to finally clear in the Pacific Northwest into the 70s over the weekend. That sounds delightful. And we have the San Francisco Pride Parade on Sunday. It is going to be stellar at 74 degrees. The thunderstorm activity will exist on Friday in Denver all the way through the weekend. And then we do have temperatures climbing in the Los Angeles basin to the mid 80s by the end of the weekend. Too hot in Phoenix, Frank. I think because, you know, it is summertime in the desert.
I hear you. I hear you. Thank you, Roberta.
This is awesome. I mean, I can't say enough. The only sadness I have is that this neighborhood will never be the same.
Nearly a year after Hawaii's tragic wildfires, construction underway in burned out communities across Maui surprised even some of the locals there. Maui officials hosted a tour to show what progress is now being made. After that deadly wildfire destroyed much of Lahaina, residential building permits are now being issued to rebuild homes, and there is some new growth on the town's giant 151-year-old banyan tree. How about that? All thanks to the preservation efforts of arborists.
We're focused on the safety. We're focused on making sure we can get people back to their homes in a safe way as quickly as possible, but we have to be focusing on the safety, and I guess that's what I want people to see. Now, if we can do both, I think that's a win-win.
Maui officials say it's unclear when residents will be able to move back, though, and if they will be able to afford it once they decide to do so. Well, a camp underway in Arizona works to empower girls and teach firefighting skills at the same time. Fox 10's Desiree Fluellen says some of the participants have used the experience to launch new careers.
The Goodyear Fire Department is hosting Camp Fires, females in responding emergency services.
This camp is for teens and girls to come and learn a little bit about the fire industry and like what they do, and we get kind of a view into their world and their daily lives.
Addison Fullerton has participated in this camp before. She has a passion for helping those who feel helpless. The camp prepares them in a variety of ways.
Most of it is like getting out of your bubble a little bit, learning confidence, how to talk to people and how to deal with hard situations.
Over the course of 5 days, high school girls will get to experience the job. They'll perform search and rescue missions and climb a 100-foot tall ladder. Today was all about working with turnout gear.
We put on our gear, and the captains put on their packs, and then we would go through our stations where there's we pull a tire.
They also worked with the hoses and climbed stairs. Goodyear's first female fire captain, Megan Goldbach, says this camp started about 10 years ago and the mission continues with strength.
It shows them that they're able to take care and accomplish things that they didn't think that they could, and open up avenues of different career fields if they would like to.
And some campers have discovered this is what they like to do, years later becoming firefighters.
They went through the academy, they got hired, now they work for cities around the valley, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Desiree Fluellen, Fox 10 News.
Up next, it happened again, the discovery of a bizarre monolith in a remote section of a West Coast state. Coming up, questions mount over who planted this one. And some of the rarest animals in the world will soon call the West Coast home. We're going to show you how the San Diego Zoo getting ready to welcome the arrival of giant pandas. Coming up. Nearly 200 people have been charged in a nationwide crackdown on healthcare fraud, with claims topping $2.7 billion. The Attorney General, Merrick Garland, announcing the charges against doctors, nurses, practitioners, and others around the United States, including $900 million scheme in Arizona alone. In that case, authorities said the owners of a wound care company accepted more than $330 million in kickbacks, all part of a scheme to fraudulently bill Medicare. In total, authorities seized more than $230 million in cash, luxury cars, and other assets. More woes for Walgreens. The pharmacy giant says it's planning to close a large number of its stores A company is reviewing about a quarter of its 8,600 locations that are not profitable. The closures are expected in the coming years, with staff being reassigned to reduce job impact. Stores themselves have not been finalized, so it's too early to say how many West Coast locations will be affected. The CEO, Tim Wentworth, says Walgreens is dealing with a, quote, worse than expected U.S. consumer environment. Well, some giant pandas slated to settle in a brand new home in California. Zara Barker has details on their new digs in San Diego.
We are on Panda Watch here at the San Diego Zoo. They're actually one of the rarest mammals in the entire world, with less than 2,000 of them left in the wild. And here pretty soon, you'll be able to see 2 of them at the San Diego Zoo.
Really? They're coming to San Diego? That's amazing.
It's pandemonium at the San Diego Zoo as they're getting ready to welcome these 2 giant pandas. 4-year-old male Yun Xuan and 3-year-old female Xin Bao said goodbye to their home Wednesday at the China Conservation and Research Center for giant pandas, alongside representatives from the zoo and Mayor Todd Gloria.
Once the pandas arrive in San Diego, they'll begin an acclimation period. That acclimation period is going to tell us how they're doing, how they're settling in, and then we'll be able to share an opening date with the public.
I'm really excited about the pandas. It's a great new addition, so I'm just really excited. They're really adorable, too.
Yun Xuan's mom was born at the San Diego Zoo back in 2007. The San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance has had a nearly 3 decades-long conservation partnership with institutions in China.
We're going to build upon the successes of our first cooperative agreement for giant panda conservation. There are still challenges for giant pandas, and we're really focused on a sustained recovery of giant pandas in their native habitat.
The giant pandas typically live up to 20 years in the wild, are about 4 to 5 feet tall, and can weigh about 250 pounds. The San Diego Zoo sent its last pandas back to China in 2019 and have been preparing a new habitat inspired from their native ranges.
Our giant panda habitat has gone through an absolute transformation. The size of the habitat is, I believe it's quadrupled, maybe even quintupled. It's enormous. And we've also incorporated a lot of topographic features that are just going to make for a very exciting and engaging habitat for the giant pandas.
Now, we don't know exactly when these 2 pandas will be arriving here in San Diego, but we do know that they were on their way after that ceremony in China earlier today. We are expecting them to be acclimated for a couple of weeks, and then a debut date will be announced by zoo officials, and of course, we'll keep you updated on that. Reporting at the San Diego Zoo, I'm Zara Barker.
People all across northern Colorado are searching for answers after a mysterious monolith popped up in the Front Range. A Reddit user in the Fort Collins area claims the monolith was put up to mess with locals, but this has not been confirmed. Owner of a nearby Howling Cow Cafe says customers have been coming into the business asking about the monolith. We reported when a similar structure appeared north of the Las Vegas Valley over the June 15th weekend, although a connection has not been confirmed. That's a wrap. Have a good night, everybody.